Bhangarh Fort does not welcome visitors, it watches them, and on that moonless evening when Arjun crossed the broken stone gate, the air itself seemed to hold its breath, as if the old buildings were preparing to speak after centuries of silence. He had come as a storyteller, a seeker of forgotten truths for his YouTube channel, believing that abandoned places only echoed myths created by fearful minds, yet the moment his boots touched the cracked pathway, a strange chill crawled up his spine, not from the cold but from the feeling of being observed by unseen eyes hidden within shattered windows and roofless palaces. The ruins stood like wounded giants, their walls scarred by time, their arches bent as if whispering secrets to one another, and when Arjun lifted his camera, the faint sound of murmurs brushed past his ears, soft, broken voices layered over one another, too unclear to understand yet too real to ignore. He laughed nervously, reminding himself that fear feeds imagination, but the laughter died quickly when the whispers grew louder near the old market ruins, where empty stone shops lined up like silent graves, and suddenly he realized the voices were not random, they were calling his name. Heart pounding, he followed the sound toward the queen's palace. Its walls blackened and cracked, where legends claimed happiness once lived before being swallowed by a curse, and as he stepped inside, the temperature dropped unnaturally, his breath fogging the air despite the summer heat outside. The whispers now formed words, telling stories of joy turned to sorrow, of laughter drowned in screams, of lives frozen in the moment of betrayal, and the walls themselves seemed to pulse with memory, shadows moving where no light existed. Arjun's camera flickered, catching shapes that looked almost human, faces pressed into stone as if trapped between worlds, begging to be remembered, begging to be heard, and he realized with growing horror that these buildings were not empty, they were alive, fed by pain, sustained by the silence of those who walked away and forgot. When the fort bell rang on its own, echoing through the ruins like a funeral cry, Arjun understood the truth hidden behind every warning sign. That nightfall awakened the past, and anyone who listened too closely to the whispers risked becoming part of them forever. Still, even as fear clawed at him, a strange sense of responsibility settled in his chest, because if these voices were real, then someone had to tell their story, someone had to listen, and as he whispered to his unseen audience to stay with him, to not leave just yet, the old buildings leaned closer, eager to continue their tale. The deeper Arjun walked into Bhangarh, the stronger the whispers became, no longer distant murmurs but clear, desperate voices echoing through the corridors of broken temples and crumbling palaces, each building revealing fragments of its suffering as if competing to be heard first. He saw visions now. Children running through courtyards that no longer existed, women lighting lamps that flickered and died mid-flame, soldiers frozen in the act of drawing swords they never swung, all trapped within the stones that formed the fort skeleton, and the whispers explained the curse not as a single act of magic, but as centuries of greed, betrayal, and broken promises soaked into the walls until the buildings themselves learned how to hate. Arjun tried to leave, but the paths twisted unnaturally, leading him back to the same ruins again and again, the fort refusing to release someone who could still hear its pain, and when he collapsed near the main palace, the loudest whisper of all spoke directly into his mind, offering him a choice: walk away and forget, or stay and become the voice of the forgotten. Trembling, Arjun understood that the curse survived because people treated Bhangarh as entertainment, not remembrance. And as dawn approached, the whispers softened, growing tired, their energy fading with the darkness, giving him one last chance. When the first ray of sunlight touched the fort, the voices fell silent, the buildings returning to lifeless stone, and Arjun found himself standing at the entrance gate, free but changed forever. Days later, as he uploaded his footage, viewers noticed something strange. Faint whispers hidden beneath his narration, faces briefly visible in the shadows. And Arjun spoke calmly, urging his audience not to fear but to listen, to remember, and to respect the stories buried in forgotten places, asking them to stay connected, to subscribe, because every story shared kept the whispers from fading into silence again. Even now, those who watch late at night claim they hear soft voices calling their names, and somewhere in Bhangarh Fort, the old buildings wait patiently, knowing that as long as someone is listening, their story, and their curse, will never truly die.